Michael Jackson was known as one of the greatest live performers in music history. He could command an entire stadium with a single gesture, turn a simple dance move into an unforgettable moment, and make thousands of people feel as though they were watching something completely impossible. But behind the spectacular costumes, choreography, lighting, pyrotechnics, and enormous stage productions was another reality. Live performances could go wrong at any moment. Mechanical systems could fail. Audio tracks could disappear. Lighting could suddenly cut out. Rain could turn a stage into a skating rink. Pyrotechnics could become dangerous. And complicated stage machinery could leave a performer suspended high above the audience. Michael Jackson experienced many of these situations throughout his career. What made them remarkable was not simply that accidents happened, but the way he often reacted when they did. Instead of immediately panicking or abandoning the performance, he frequently relied on instinct, professionalism, and years of experience to keep the show moving. Some stories surrounding these incidents have been exaggerated or circulated without reliable evidence, so they should be treated carefully. But there are also well-known documented accidents and technical problems that demonstrate just how demanding Jackson's productions could be. Here are some of the most dramatic moments when Michael Jackson had to deal with unexpected problems on stage or during major productions. The Dangerous Bridge Accident. One of the most dramatic incidents associated with Michael Jackson occurred during the 1999 Michael Jackson and Friends concert in Munich, Germany. During Earth Song, Jackson was performing with a large mechanical bridge structure that was designed to create a spectacular visual effect. As the performance reached its climax, the structure experienced a serious mechanical failure and dropped unexpectedly. The accident was violent and frightening. Jackson was injured and had to receive medical attention afterward. Yet the story became particularly memorable because of his determination to continue performance despite what had just happened. The incident illustrates the enormous risks involved in the type of stage production Jackson had become famous for. These were not simple concerts with a microphone and a few lights. His shows involved cranes, lifts, moving platforms, special effects, pyrotechnics, trapdoors, and enormous pieces of industrial equipment. Every component had to work perfectly. When something failed, the consequences could be severe. The Pepsi pyrotechnic accident. Perhaps the most famous accident of Jackson's career happened away from a concert stage. On January 27, 1984, while filming a Pepsi commercial at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, Jackson was performing a routine when pyrotechnics accidentally ignited his hair. The scene was supposed to be carefully choreographed. Instead, a burst of sparks came too close, setting Jackson's hair on fire. For several moments, the performance continued before the seriousness of the situation became clear. Crew members rushed toward him and extinguished the flames. Jackson suffered significant burns to his scalp and required medical treatment. The accident became a major event in his life and was widely reported. Pepsi eventually reached a settlement with Jackson, and he donated the money he received to establish a burn center. The incident also became an important reminder that even a carefully planned entertainment production could suddenly become dangerous. Pyrotechnics were an important part of Jackson's visual style, but fire effects required absolute precision. The 1995 rehearsal collapse. Another serious incident occurred while Jackson was preparing for his planned television special in 1995. During rehearsals at the Beacon Theater in New York, Jackson collapsed during an intense rehearsal. He was subsequently taken to the hospital, where doctors treated him for severe dehydration and other health problems. The production was ultimately canceled. For an artist whose reputation was built around extraordinary physical performances, the incident demonstrated the enormous pressure that could accompany preparation for a major show. Jackson's choreography demanded tremendous stamina. Rehearsals could involve hours of singing, dancing, movement, and repeated sequences designed to make every second of performance appear effortless. To the audience, the finished product looked easy. Behind the scenes, it could be exhausting. The slippery Moscow stage. During the Dangerous World Tour in 1993, Jackson performed in Moscow in difficult weather conditions. Rain created major problems for the outdoor production. A wet stage is particularly dangerous for a performer whose choreography depends on precise footwork and rapid movement. Jackson's famous dance style required control. Sliding across a dry stage could be intentional, Losing balance on a wet one was something completely different. During the performance, stage crew members were reportedly forced to work around Jackson, attempting to keep the surface as dry as possible. Instead of simply stopping the show, Jackson continued performing. The concert itself later became associated with Stranger in Moscow, a song that reflected the loneliness and isolation he experienced during that period of his life. When the Dangerous tour machine got stuck, Jackson's Dangerous World tour relied heavily on elaborate machinery. One of the most famous examples was a spectacular opening sequence in which Jackson appeared to be launched onto the stage. The effect depended on complicated hydraulic and mechanical equipment. During performances, however, such systems could malfunction. At Wembley Stadium in London, one reported problem left Jackson stuck on a stage mechanism rather than completing the dramatic movement exactly as planned. The solution required the stage crew to intervene while the audience waited. The production team temporarily darkened the stage, allowing technicians to work without exposing every detail of the problem. Once Jackson was safely released, the show continued. This was one of the recurring themes of Jackson's career. The audience often saw only a few seconds of confusion, while an entire technical team could be working desperately behind the scenes to prevent a disaster, suspended above the crowd. Jackson's concerts frequently placed him high above the audience. Sometimes the problem was simply that the technology refused to cooperate. During performances of Scream, Jackson depended on synchronized music, vocals, lighting, and choreography. At one History Tour concert, the backing track and microphone did not work properly at the beginning of the song. Instead of the explosive opening the audience expected, there was an awkward moment of silence. For an artist performing in front of thousands of people, silence can feel enormous. Yet after the technical problem was corrected, the concert continued normally. The moment demonstrated an important truth about live performance. Even when the audience notices a mistake, the performer has to keep going. The missing vocal track. A similar problem occurred during a New Year's Eve performance in Brunei. Jackson began Scream, but a technical issue affected the pre-recorded vocal track. Rather than stopping the song completely, Jackson used his live microphone and continued singing. The audience may have noticed something was different, but the performance continued. This kind of recovery was particularly important in Jackson's shows because so many elements were synchronized. If one part failed, it could potentially affect everything else. A performer who simply stopped would leave the audience staring at a broken production. Jackson's instinct was usually the opposite. Keep moving. The anti-gravity lean. The famous anti-gravity lean from Smooth Criminal was one of Jackson's most recognizable stage illusions. The move appeared physically impossible. Jackson seemed to lean dramatically forward while keeping his body perfectly straight. The illusion depended on specially designed footwear and stage mechanisms. But any mechanical illusion creates another problem: timing. If the shoes failed to lock properly into stage mechanism, Jackson could not safely complete the move. That meant he had to recover his balance almost instantly. A mistake during illusion, that extreme, could easily turn into a serious fall. The audience might see only a slight adjustment, but the performer would know exactly how close the situation had come to going wrong. The Dangerous tour hospitalization. The Dangerous World Tour also became physically demanding for Jackson. In 1993, shortly before a scheduled performance in Bangkok, Jackson became seriously ill and required hospitalization. The concert had to be canceled. The incident was part of a difficult period in which the physical and psychological demands of touring were taking a major toll. Later that year, Jackson acknowledged problems involving his dependence on pain medication and sought treatment. The remaining dates of the Dangerous tour were eventually canceled. This is an important part of the story because the greatest threat to a live performer is not always a broken machine or a failed microphone. Sometimes the human body itself reaches its limit. The stubborn microphone stand. Sometimes even the simplest piece of equipment can become a problem. During one performance, Jackson encountered trouble with a microphone stand that refused to cooperate with his choreography. For a few seconds, the equipment appeared to interfere with the routine. Jackson reacted immediately. Instead of allowing the problem to stop the performance, he physically dealt with the stand and continued. To the audience, the incident became part of the performance rather than a complete interruption. That ability to turn a mistake into something that looked intentional was one of Jackson's greatest strengths. The power of failure during Thriller. Jackson's performances of Thriller depended heavily on lighting and choreography. During a bad World Tour performance, a serious technical failure reportedly disrupted lighting and other synchronized elements. For dancers wearing elaborate costumes, sudden darkness could be extremely dangerous. The performers had to know their positions without relying completely on visual cues. Jackson's experience allowed him to continue guiding the performance even when the production systems were not functioning as planned. Instead of allowing the blackout to destroy the routine, he and his dancers relied on preparation and memory until the technical systems were restored. This is one of the least visible skills of a professional performer, knowing what to do when everything you normally depend on disappears. Smooth Criminal's trapdoor problem. Smooth Criminal was built around precision. The choreography, lighting, costume, scenery, and stage mechanisms all had to work together. A malfunction involving a trapdoor or stage lift could therefore become extremely dangerous. If a hidden opening appeared unexpectedly beneath the performer, there would be almost no time to react. Jackson was known for having extremely fast reflexes, and moments like this demonstrated why that mattered. A movement that might look like an ordinary jump or change in choreography could actually be an emergency response to a dangerous opening in the stage. The audience would often never know what had happened. The Super Bowl entrance. Jackson's 1993 Super Bowl halftime performance transformed the expectations for halftime entertainment. His entrance was designed as a massive spectacle, but the production depended on complicated stage machinery, including hydraulic mechanisms. Any delay could have destroyed the timing of the entire performance. Jackson reportedly remained in position while technicians dealt with equipment. When the system was finally ready, he emerged onto the stage and stood motionless for an extended moment. That stillness became one of the most iconic images of the performance. What could have been remembered as a technical problem instead became part of the mythology surrounding the performance.